I call it using my powers for good. And that I seem to be able to manage that for the most part.
Hmm. Do you have any procedures or regulations related to this? Do you have any limits to confidentiality or something like this?
I do. Yeah. When things that will either put the coachee or the organization at risk, and we kind
Hmm.
of contract with that on the front end, that there are certain conversations that aren't coaching conversations, they are HR conversations,
Hmm.
and we'll need to and so I'll name those if and when we run into them, and then we'll redirect to the appropriate people there. And that has required me developing relationships with HR as well. I
Hmm.
think we were kind of Tableau hadn't had a coach before, and so when I came in, they were like, "Who is this person, and can we trust her? And how do we know she is going to be able to refer out when she needs to?"
Hmm.
That just comes with time.
I see. Martina, how about and you were just recently in the process, as you mentioned, of developing the coaching process. So how do you approach this kind of issues, potential ethical and confidential issues?
Well, we have developed a code of ethics, which all coaches must respect. And of course, confidentiality, integrity, trust, these are important elements of the text. And we never coach people in the teams that we work for, never, ever. So we
Mm-hmm.
put Chinese walls between us and the teams divisions that are under our supervision. So that never happens.
Anything else? Or let me have a specific question. So imagine somebody comes to you and say, Martina, help me develop this skill so I can look for another job. Would you take this kind of request?
Oh, I would. Yes, thank you for asking. That's actually an interesting question. We also articulate very clearly that although we are internal, we behave as if we were external coaches. So we always act in the best interest of the coachee. So we never try to persuade them to, stay in the firm, never manipulate them in any way. We really help them to objectively assess their situation and make the best decision for them at the moment. And yes, we are aware that there is a risk of them deciding that, the company, the role, whatever, may no longer be the right place for them and they will leave. And it has happened a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But we still believe that our role is to help people, find the best solutions for them. We are not helping the company to find, the best solutions for the people, but we are really be there for the people.
Mm-hmm.
So we, our sort of approach in that respect is pretty clear.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because in the previous company I worked for, we have this limitation, but it was upfront. Like, if you have this conversation or if you want to have it, we will not disclose to anyone, but we will not take this request.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how you approach it.
And we've had several such situations. And of course, in some situations, the employee has decided to stay. In some situations, they have left. That is part of the deal.
Okay. And another maybe more specific question. So do you disclose any information about the fact that, let's say, employee works with a coach to his manager, or some parts of it, the goals or something like this?
Well, we do not disclose it, but we, in the first session, we actually ask the employee if they have discussed with their supervisor that they, will be seeking a coach. Some have not. We leave it up to them. But unless, the request for coaching is initiated by the manager, we do not discuss with them the fact that, one of their sort of employees is working with us.
It's interesting. I know that sometimes there might be some coaching schemas or some coaching providers that maybe not disclosing things to let's say managers, but collecting some insights in order to centralize them, anonymize them, or provide to somebody.
And it's part of our ethical codex, actually, when we say we never report any of the information that we learn during coaching to the management. We never do it. Because I think that will compromise our credibility, right? And that is so fragile, you know, so delicate. It is actually one of the issues that we were facing when we introduced the program, that, you know, people were asking, you know, how, I mean, can we actually share confidential information with you? You know, does it stay with you, or do you share it with anyone? So we just have to make sure that that we just keep absolute confidentiality, and do not share any of the information with anyone, not even, you know, anonymized. Just don't do it.
Cool. And I'm noticing that I may not fully agree with some of the things, but let's explore. I'm curious how other people see it. So, Mathias, how it is for yourself? How do you deal with confidentiality? And
well, I feel totally aligned with Martina and Cara. I think that I want the people to feel comfortable with the fact that the conversation is going to stay between us. And my job is to listen to their needs and challenges, and find a way. I have to find a way to help them. And so that's the agreement we have. The leaders, they know about it. They know the fact that I will not disclose anything so specific. I can talk about the big picture of some work that we are doing, but I think it's important to keep that trust between the people and us as a foundation of the relationship we need to build. And I found out that actually having this open conversation with them when they feel like getting out of the company, looking for other jobs, the fact that we really listen and care about that, sometimes it makes them want to stay a little bit. We can have a positive impact, because actually it's not every day that they have someone who really cares about them. And I put the people I coach above everything else, above career. I don't believe in career. I believe in impact. I'm not career driven. So I put the people above everything. And if the impact that I can have is to make them feel confident to get a better job somewhere else, I would feel very happy about this. It turns out that it happened a couple of times. I think some people would just need to share their concerns about how unhappy they are at work, and that we are not necessarily giving recognition to their skills and the contribution they can bring to the company. And sometimes having a coaching session helps me to make them understand that they can have a contribution. Maybe there's another role internally that they can apply for, and I would be happy to support them with that. It happened that some people would come to me and say, you know what, I think I'm done. I'm looking for something else outside. We talk about it. I listen to the problems they are facing. And sometimes by asking good questions, they see a different perspective. They have a different perception that they haven't thought. And I think that's one of the main purpose of the coach. So I feel very comfortable with confidentiality. I feel really comfortable with helping eventually people to apply for other jobs. My mission is to have an impact on their development. I want them to learn something that could be useful for their life. It's bigger than one company. It's bigger than the career. So I'm trying to stay aligned with this and feel confident about it.
I just want you to take off facilitator's hat for a moment and just share how I did it, because I also wanted to share something. So in one case, how we proceeded, first we started with contracting session, and we created goals for the person and criteria, and then it should be confirmed with the manager. So afterwards, everything is confidential, but at this point of time, we kind of needed to align it with person's manager. Right now, how I do it is that it's up to employee whether to do it or not, and it's up to employee whether to inform the manager or not. And I see the value in both, and it kind of segues to the next question that I have. Who's the client? Like, is the client the company who pays the salary, or is the client the person we are in this virtual room with? So Mathias, what do you think? Who's the client?
So okay, bear with me. I think that the client is still the company. If I coach someone who's unhappy in the company and needs to grow somewhere else, it still benefits the company. Instead of having someone who's not happy at work in the company who can become toxic,
Mm-hmm.
I think it still benefits the company. So I don't want to lose that to lose that perception. My client is the company, but everything that I do must be a contribution to the success of the company through the people. So again, if I need to coach them to feel confident to apply for something else, it will benefit the company. I feel very comfortable with this. Obviously, the most important thing is the people I coach, with the attention to have an impact and a contribution to the company's goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're looking to strike some balance between those. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't think it's a black and white situation here. Like we need to take both situations into consideration. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Cara, what do you think? Who's the coach? Oh, sorry, who's the client?
Who is the coach? I think I was just thinking about it and thinking the company is the sponsor, and the coachee is the client for me. And I wanted, could I go back to the last question just to add like a shade of gray to the confidentiality? When I do these 6-month engagements with intact teams, I contract in coaching with each member that I will never share anything attached to you, but I do aggregate themes about what I'm hearing from this team. And then I feed the themes back to the team. And so I might say to them, decision-making clarity is really popping up for this group as something that you're struggling with. But I would never say, and for Alex, it's the worst, right? And that is a function of the program that I'm running, but I contract with everyone in our conversations that that's how it will happen. And we use the themes to determine the work that we'll do together. So it seems to work, and it doesn't seem to impact people's ability to feel like they can speak freely. So I've just thought that was worth adding into the mix.
Yeah, and basically it's aligned with the ICF Code of Ethics. It's not about, it doesn't mandate how confidentiality should look like, but it's more about being clear about confidentiality with the clients upfront.
Yeah.
And I guess there are different setups that can work with people. Okay. And like maybe related to this, who's the client question, what would make a company which doesn't have an internal coach want to create this kind of role? What's the benefit for a company? Because we talked about what are the benefits for clients. We talk about what kind of value we can bring to clients. So why would a company hire an internal coach?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Sorry.
I was thinking about it. I was just looking out the window while I was thinking about it. Well, I think this all comes down to our ability to articulate the return on investment. And one of the ways, measurement is so hard, it's so tricky in this field. But one of the ways that I actually find storytelling to be the most effective way to communicate how are you different as a result of coaching? How is the company benefiting as a result of coaching? I think it could be a tricky sell to an organization that hadn't had it before. But for me, in terms of continuation of my program, I just leverage all of the people that I've worked with, and I use their words. When we wrap up our 6-month engagement with teams, they're actually one of their final projects. I give them like an hour and a half as a team to develop a presentation to deliver to senior executives on the return on investment of this program. And so they have to work together really quickly, pull together a presentation that then these senior leaders will come and get to hear. And it hasn't gone sideways yet. It's very stressful. Like, it's a stressful hour and a half for everybody, because I'm like wondering if they're going to pull it off, and they're wondering if they're going to pull it off. And they always do. And they can tell really compelling stories about how they are better leaders as a result of doing this work, and how that translates into efficiencies for the organization.
Okay. So if I'm getting it right, it's about starting to do it and then formalizing it based on the kind of value that internal coaches bring.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that leaders within organizations, they have to have had an experience somewhere to be open to it, or they have to just be of the kind of maturity and that they recognize the value of this kind of skill building in an organization. I think it's rare. I mean, Salesforce doesn't have internal coaches. So Tableau has 2. Salesforce doesn't have any. And so it is, we're joining this 50,000 person company that doesn't do that. They do coaching very differently.
So you have an opportunity to grow from there.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Martina, what about you? And probably you have some stories because you were formalizing the program, so probably you had those conversations about why and what's the purpose.
We persuaded the leadership that coaching contributes to an increased engagement of the employees. They just, really appreciate this extra care that the company offers, and this sort of ability to. It's basically, one of the tools to develop. People are different, develop in different ways. Some prefer to, attend a training. Some like to learn on the job. Some appreciate to have an inspiring conversation. So this is just one of the tools for self-development, and coaching really, helps people feel more confident in their roles. And it's, in my opinion, it is one of the most powerful benefits that the employee get from the firm. So, we get a lot of appreciation for people simply for the fact that they can approach a coach when they feel they would benefit. I mean, just the mere fact that the possibility exists in the company has a very strong impact.
Cara mentioned approach that she used to get the ROI and make the clients themselves present it. Do you do any kind of things like this? Do you collect feedbacks?
We do. We collect feedback, yes, and we share the references on our sort of internal website, because we see that as inspiration for others. Because some people may wonder, is it for me? Is the problem coachable? Or I'm not sure about different things. So when they read references, positive references from other people who've done the program, we believe that they may get more easily inspired to try it as well. When they actually get in a situation when if coaching might be sort of the right tool for them to try.
And you mentioned that people can apply themselves for the programs.
Yes.
Do you notice any kind of patterns where past clients refer other people they know?
That is actually the biggest source of new clients, that they tell us, I've talked to my friend who's done coaching. He was, enthusiastic. It helped him a lot. And that's why I want to work with you as well. So referral actually delivers the majority of our new clients. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Mathias, to you. So how would you, and maybe you were in a similar position, how would you persuade company to have an internal coach?
Yeah, we can look at a couple of things. We can look at the turnover. We can look at the employees' engagement. Um, if you run a survey to all the employees and ask them with a lot of transparency, what do they like the most about the company? What do they miss? They will probably mention the fact that they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to be coached. So you can actually gather some data about this if you run survey or polls. There are some tools you can do this quite easily. And we can even go deeper into this and calculate how much money they would lose with this turnover, by hiring people every 3 months, by investing time into onboarding, training program, etc. So we can make this kind of analysis if we are speaking with an analytical type of personality. And if I'm speaking with someone who cares a lot about the company culture, it's going to be an easy conversation, because I think that learning and development and coaching is a very important element of the culture you want to bring. Like, most of the time, the culture is built from the people, from the bottom up. If you really have a company where you care, you listen to them, and you support their development, it's going to have an impact on the company culture. So there are many ways to convince companies to have a coach. And honestly, if we take some steps back right now, this year has been crazy, right? This pandemic have shown that we need to learn how to adapt. If you don't believe in coaching in 2020, then I think you should do something else. I'm sorry, but this year has been crazy. People have been working from home. They have been stressed. They need extra support. They need extra coaching. So how do you deal with your company? How do you deal with this ability to adapt? How do you help your teams to develop the required soft skills to keep on adapting? Maybe next year we're going to face another crisis. Maybe in 2 years it's going to be even worse. What are you doing in your company to make sure that they are equipped and confident to tackle any kind of challenges that the world and the business will bring to their face? If you don't believe in coaching right now, like 20 years ago, I would be upset, but I would get, okay, I would get it. There's something else maybe. But no, now, I mean, like, if you don't believe in coaching, I think you need to reconsider your leadership skills.
Wise words. So
I have one thing for that.
Yeah, sure.
Which is that it's a competitive edge for organizations.
Yeah.
And that high performers expect developmental opportunities. And so if you want to retain and attract real talent, then these are the kinds of things that are now standard for developing people.
Absolutely. And there is a very strong impact that sometimes need to be remind to leaders on performance. When you coach people, there is an impact on performances. So if they are obsessed with results and sales, blah, 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 coaching has an impact on that. It's not a fancy thing that we do just to look nice. It has a very, very strong impact on results. And there is a way to measure that. There is a way to gather data about this. And this is an important conversation we need to have with leaders for sure.
Actually, that's a great point, because I think a lot of research on millennials, and I'm not sure what the generation after that is called, basically they're looking for developmental opportunities. They look for mentoring, they look for coaching. They are not able to think in those kind of very clear career progression, so they want to jump all over the place.
And they look for meaning, they look for impact.
Yeah.
So that's a new game we're playing now. Like my parents were living in a different era. That was different. The purpose of life back then was to get a job.
Yeah.
Now it's different. Like people, the young generation, and I love them for that. They are bringing on the table the topic of what is the meaning of my work? What is the impact we have on our clients and the society?
Yeah.
How can you help me grow as a human being, as an individual who will be able to be happy in this crazy world we're living? It's just a different conversation we're having right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There is one question in the chat. I won't read it all, but basically it's about, do you have any kind of ways to address ethical issues or way to escalate any issues somebody has with their coaches? So, does anyone want to answer that? Because my answer is no, there's no such thing.
I haven't faced any such situation so far, so I can't share my personal experience.
Me neither.
So, Mirek, sorry, we don't deal with that. But again, in the previous company I worked for, we had kind of coordinator who was not a coach, and this person was mostly responsible for admin part of things. And I think if there would be any issues, they would be escalated to this person. So
I would say I had a I did have a peer for a while who was in the same role as me, and I actually found some of her behavior not appropriate, and it was tricky because I didn't have anything hard and fast to point to except for my own understanding of how we hold our own boundaries as coaches. Like an example is that she would go out after work and have a beer with her coaching client. And I said, I think that's really tricky. And and we are in a continuing relationship with this person as their coach. And then to start at this other kind of relationship, I find that an inappropriate boundary. And but we didn't have anywhere in the organization that I could point to as a structural breach. And so it was really just my own feedback to her as her peer and someone with more experience than her. But it was kind of weird. It was kind of a tricky situation for me.
Yeah. And something similar to that is that, like, for example, I coaching someone, I can meet the same person in a different capacity as a manager or as somebody who's doing some non-project activities while still being his or her coach. And then it can become tricky, right?
It is, and I think I've developed kind of my own code over the years, which is maybe stricter than most people, but it's that if at work I'm going to have this relationship with you that is as your confidential coach, we won't have a personal relationship until this relationship is over. And I do have friends now who were coaching clients, but for me, that helps me maintain my own integrity around the work. I don't know that it's something that everyone has to do, but it's something that has been helpful to me over the years. Because of all the things I'm already holding, to like add another layer of personal relationship and friendship, it's just too much for me.
Yeah. And somewhat related to that's question to anyone who would like to answer it. What's your attitude towards supervision, accreditation, and those kind of things?
Well, we had supervision twice a year. So we've had a really experienced coach who, comes to the office twice a year for a day, and we work on, our sort of situations, sort of talk about them. We do role modeling, we coach and then reflect on it, talk about it. She teaches us some new sort of techniques that we can use, etc. So it's a lot of inspiration, but at the same time, practical practical sort of exercises that help us develop as coaches. But really, talking about the situations we were facing, how we dealt with them, what we could have done differently, helps a lot. So we do that. And regarding accreditation, we really don't have any policy for that. It really depends on every single person, what they want to do. If they decide to go for it, we'll support it, but we have no expectations of that.
Do you have any expectations in terms of who can be an internal coach?
Yes, we get feedback we first have a conversation with the person to understand their motivation, why they want to be an internal coach. Then we talk about the supervisor to get their feedback on whether they believe the person, has got the right qualities to be a coach. And then we check whether the sponsoring sort of partner would support that financially, because clearly, the training is expensive and the firm supports it. And if we get yeses from all these sides, we actually give the person the green light to complete the program and become an internal coach.
Okay, so you have a lined up way, kind of someone applies, then goes to the program, and then, okay, makes sense. Mathias, Cara, would you share any?
So very quickly, we don't have a process in place for that. We are at the beginning of the journey for the learning and development. But now, if you ask my opinion, I agree with Martina. We need to first hear the motivation of someone to become a coach. To give you an example, let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, when I was working for another company, and I was a sales coach, and we were making interviews to have a second sales coach. And the question was asked, so why do you want to become a sales coach? And the person said, because I don't want to make sales anymore. I don't want to pick up the phone and make calls. That's not the right motivation to become a coach, right? So I would need to hear and feel a passion for learning and sharing, and I would need to feel that this person cares about others more than themselves. That's my expectation, because otherwise I don't think you can be a good coach, and I don't think you can enjoy the job. Like, we need, as a coach, like, this is just my personal opinion, but I believe that we need to accept that we give a lot more than we receive, and that's okay, because we care about others more than ourselves. So if you are driven by a career path, maybe you don't want to be, maybe coaching is not the right thing. But if your drive is to have an impact on people's life and development, maybe we can talk about it. So that, very briefly, that would be my expectation and my vision of that.
Yeah, makes sense. Cara, anything from your side?
I have to find my own mentorship and supervision outside of the organization. And I'm lucky enough to have people in my life that I can go to when I feel stuck. I think it's I'm pretty lonely in my organization. I don't have many people that for me to learn from and grow from inside of my organization. So I have to find it for myself outside. And as for certification, it's kind of funny sort. I don't know if it's funny, but my master's degree I got in 2004, and it's called Coaching and Consulting in Organizations. And this was actually before ICF had kind of boiled up as the accrediting organization. And so over the years, as it started to grow, I kept thinking, I don't have to do that. I have a master's degree. Like, why do I have to do this? And I was pretty stubborn about it. And just maybe, I don't know if it was 6 months ago, I had a conversation with one of the leaders at Salesforce who runs all the leadership development programs. And he said, why don't you have this? And I was like, it's never presented itself as a challenge to me. Like, it's never kept me out of anything. I just haven't saw the need. It costs money and it takes a bunch of time, and it just hasn't seemed like it would benefit. And he said, do it. And he said, you can blame me if you want to, but just get it done. And why wouldn't you? And as it turned out, I had way more. I had all the hours. I had everything I needed actually to get it. It was just kind of the bureaucracy of getting through it. And I made it happen in the span of a couple months. And then I just felt so much better. And I didn't even realize that that was this thing that was kind of riding me, but I had been really stubborn about it. So I'm not sure what to say about that. There's a whole nother conversation about how ICF does things in relation to like a philosophical model that I'm way more aligned to, which is vertical development and ego development. And I don't think they're always they always work together. And that was another thing that was tricky for me. So
See, congrats, by the way, on getting
Thank you very much.
the
I was so
paper.
surprised by feeling relieved. I thought I didn't care about this. Apparently I did care about it.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering whether you have any kind of questions you wanted to discuss and I haven't asked them yet. Or maybe you want to ask something each other.
What has been, Alex, your biggest challenge as an internal coach?
Different things, I guess. In one company, it was more about, it felt more like a guerrilla activity because the major L&D support was for training. So coaches were left to their own devices in order to promote it. And being in a location not very populated in proportion to all the company, it was a bit hard. So this was probably the biggest challenge for me in the previous company. Right now, hard to say. Well, I guess it's not that formal as before for me now. So I have a lot of flexibility how to arrange it, but probably I need to put more safeguards or things in writing. There are some things I put in writing, but it's not very formal because I'm only one internal coach. Probably I need to bring more people there. Yeah, I guess that's how I would answer that. But I need to think a bit more about it. Maybe it's too rosy for me. I don't have super important challenges. Yeah, I guess that's one of the things that I had a lot of support from management, and that was one of the reasons I joined this company I work for now. So they were quite supportive of me being kind of not having this job title as internal coach, but being able to coach a lot. And I really like that.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. So what other questions? What can we learn from each other?
I think the question about the main challenges we face as a coach is super interesting. I would love to hear everybody's position on that, and then it could help us to brainstorm a little bit and share ideas to overcome those challenges. I think it's a very good question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess one of the things I find lacking is that I haven't found any internal coaches community. So there is a community of practice in the ICF for internal coaching. Other than that, I didn't find any groups which can get together and discuss things. Like probably the only way is go to a supervisor, but it's slightly different thing. So yeah, maybe that could be a thing that we can arrange, kind of community for internal coaches to get together and discuss challenges and discuss best practices and so on.
Yeah, I think we can share some challenges or failures and then success when it comes to coaching. That could be interesting. I know that on my side, there are a couple of challenges. One of them is to make people really adopt the culture of coaching, of learning and development, like make people really believe in that, especially because it's new. So it cannot be a one man show. Like now we are 700 employees. I cannot coach everyone. So the challenge sometimes is to involve people with the same values and commitment to give a support into coaching, to give a platform in the company, to give ourselves a chance to see talent within the company. People would be able to be great coaches. That's a challenge sometimes to Ciao Daniela, so the chat. It can be challenging sometimes to make people adhere to the idea of coaching. When I started at Socialbakers, I designed my mission statement for the first year as make people fall in love with learning and coaching. If they see that as something very valuable and enjoyable, maybe I can gather more people in that project. So that's sometimes a little bit challenging, because sometimes the coach is seen as this, like I said before, this fancy guy. Sometimes it's almost like a box you want to check. I have a coach, or I have a learning and development program, so I have a great company culture. But obviously sometimes it's more complex than that. We need more people to be involved into this. So I find this sometimes challenging to have an impact on the culture and have more people involved. I don't know how the other participants see that.
Yeah.
I actually have a very similar approach to it, Mathias, and you know, my dream is to have people come to us because they care about themselves, you know, their self-development. They want to get to know themselves better, because in the majority of situations they come to us when they sort of have an issue to fix, right? They are frustrated, upset, tired, burnt out, whatever. So they come to us when they have a huge issue that they need to solve. I would want them to come to us when they are super happy, successful, but they just want more, right? They want to be better people, as you said, you know, be better human beings, just, you know, understand themselves better. What motivates them, what is important to them, you know, what is their sort of next mission they want to strive for, etc. So I would really love to see just everyone having a coach, because simply it is a sign that they care about themselves and self-development. So that is, it's probably not a challenge, it's more, you know, a vision that we have, and that's how we are trying to promote it. And actually we got a very nice budget from the company, and we were able to shoot a video to promote coaching. So we did that 2 months ago, and we released it just recently. So, you know, we're just doing little steps to sort of communicate about the coaching and its huge benefits to people.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And after your words, Mathias, I think that yeah, now I realize better what is my biggest challenge. So I guess one of the biggest challenges is to make people who are not necessarily skeptical, but just not familiar with coaching and what coaching can bring. And we as coaches know that coaching can bring whatever you can bring to the table. So as deep as you able to be vulnerable and open, that's the impact that coaching can bring. And I guess my biggest challenge is to let people entertain the idea that everything is possible, because they sometimes will come with some limiting beliefs about what's possible and what's not possible. And sometimes they will not come because the limiting beliefs even prevent them from coming to talking to me. And probably there's not much I can do with people who will not make the first step. So that's the biggest challenge, is to let other people consider making this first step.
And right there is the that's the crux for me between how ICF looks at coaching and how the principles of ego development or vertical development would look at coaching, because ego development would also looks at and says there are different stages of maturity that people go through, and some stages people just don't have self-reflection online yet. It's not part of their how they function yet, and they can develop that, but that's a big leap. And so coaching, strictly purist coaching, doesn't work for everybody. There are segments of the population that don't have that ability online yet. So I would say that's just like the tricky spot that I find that I end up having to find my own way as a coach.
So this area of coachability.
Yes. And I show up very differently as a coach with with people who my best guess is that they're in one of those earlier stages. I look like a very different coach there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not pass an ICF certification in those times.
Don't tell this to Blanca. She was president of the Czech chapter.
Not president.
You're gonna
Not
turn me
president.
in. I don't want to get arrested.
Mirek, would you like to ask this question? Because I'm not fully sure I get it right.
Can I have one question?
Yeah, please. And then Mirek, I'll let
Yeah.
you ask it.
Okay. So I prepared some questions. Most of them were answered. But you were talking about coaching platform in internal coaches here in Czech Republic. And I know that there is a platform. I don't know, Alex, if you know this.
Like, what do you mean?
It's one platform where are internal coaches, and they have meeting every 1 or 2 months. But I don't know what is the platform about. And my question is, for example, to Martina, do you see that it's important to connect internal and external coaches in Czech Republic? I mean, I am representative of ICF, and usually internal coaches are not ICF coaches. So
I am.
Okay.
Sometimes, yes.
So
I really find it important that we continue developing ourselves. That's why we've hired, a supervisor to sort of, stay in contact with the profession, with the new trends, and to have access to someone who's much more experienced than us. We will, we've got 12 coaches in our firm. All of them are internal. Maybe, we coach 50 to 100 hours per year maximum, certainly not more than that. So, we really need to have access to experienced people. So I find it very important, very important. We also, every now and then, we go to external supervisions. I have managed to get a budget from the company for development of internal coaches. So the budget is generous enough to allow us, or allow internal coaches to continue with their professional education. So, one of us will be able to attend, the next level of a coaching training to sort of, build on their skills, get to know their style, cultivate it, fine tune their abilities. So I definitely find it very, very important that we are in a continued touch with professionals, coaching professionals, and basically improve our coaching skills. So yes, absolutely, very, very critical to our success.
Okay, thank you.
I would be very happy to be part of a community of coaches who are all passionate about it, who could share best practices, where we could learn from each other. I think it's important to be part of this kind of community and having a feeling of belonging, of a group of people with similar values and passion. So I think it's super important. I would love to. Please make it happen. I'm in Prague, by the way. So if you make it happen in Prague or in Czech Republic, I'm in.
Okay.
Does this answer your question, Blanca?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mirek, to your question.
Thank you for this. Maybe I overheard this, but yes, internal trainers or coaches are important, good. But from experience, and I'm every day in corporations, different sizes, in most situations at work, people interact directly with their managers. And the question is there a standard in your organizations to train managers who use this type of coaching skills? Or do you leave it to the internal coaches?
I can speak
Who would
to
like to
that.
start? Yeah, please, Cara.
A part of this 6-month program that I run involves building coaching skills in managers. And we spend a full day of content on about the middle of the 6 months, we spend a full day of content on coaching skills. And then they join small groups of 3 that they do peer coaching, and it's facilitated peer coaching every month, so that they get to practice, and they're all expected to show up with a case study and be ready to coach and be ready to be coached. And it's how we are attempting to build those skills. I'm going actually in 6 minutes. I have one that starts that is working with 3 managers, because what we have found is that, and I think Mathias, you spoke to this earlier too, that even when you have the best workshop in the world, people struggle to apply it. And so we have found that when we meet with these folks in small groups monthly for a few months after that, their application of the tool is much improved.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's like, if you want to talk about scale, this is how you scale managers, is you teach them to coach, because people become managers because they can get stuff done and they can solve problems, and not necessarily because they have these skills. But developing these skills is really how they can scale themselves.
Thank you.
Sorry, I think I interrupted you. I got excited.
I fully agree with you. I think it's it can be challenges, but coaching it should be for everyone in the company. We need to equip the leaders to feel comfortable with coaching, and eventually as well invest into this relationship we must have with them, to have a transparent conversation about the needs of our team. And maybe it will come from a leader who will say, hey, you know what, I know this guy from my team, he needs help to develop this kind of skills, or maybe I think you can help him to do it in the same way that I can eventually involve leaders or other people in the company who I believe can help the different team members. And just to jump on the thing we were saying, as you said, like, we can make a great workshop, and then when I would do individual coaching, I love to ask what has been working for you lately and what has been challenging. And so my job is to identify one challenge that I can help them with. And to be honest, most of the time, they are mentioning something that we covered in the past in some of those workshops. So I need to stay cool, and I need to replug and reconnect their challenges with the things we have done. So I would send a recording or send a course that have been delivered in the past. People learn differently on a different pace. Sometimes they take more time to get the connection around and feel confident to apply it. Some people get it instantly, but we have to accept that repeating is teaching sometimes. So it's important to reconnect their needs with something that has been done in the past, and maybe reframe it in a different way, it will resonate more with them. But yeah, that's the kind of thing we need to accept. It's part of our job.
Yeah, what we also have, robust training programs for managers to learn coaching skills, but we also offer coaching happy hours to help leaders, for example, prepare for important career conversations, or to help them deliver feedback in a constructive, efficient way, etc. So we actually offer this extra support to actually be able to sort of practice, and prepare properly for important conversations with their people, so that that they sort of have it under control and feel confident that they can do it well. Yeah.
Like to name coaching happy hours.
Good point. Yeah, I like it too.
Miroslav, I won't go into details, but yeah, yes, from my side as well. So I guess we need to wrap it up. Cara, you mentioned that you need to go to another meeting as well. So I really appreciate your time and appreciate your answers. for those who will be watching this in the recording, if you have any questions, let me know and I will pass them to our today's panelists. So thank you so much all today for having this conversation. Hope we can maybe stay in touch and see how we can support each other in this journey. Any parting words anyone want to say?
Well, I would, if Blanca can share details of that coaching platform that is established.
Yeah, I will send you.
I would be really keen to join.
Yeah. I will send you it via LinkedIn. Yeah.
Super. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Same here. That would be great.
Yeah. Okay, but I think it's in Czech language.
Okay, so I'm out.
Yeah.
Or you learn Czech very quickly.
I try, trust me, and it's tough. It's tough.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
Cara.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Yeah, on my side, I just want to say thank you for this. I learned a lot. It was great to hear other perspective, other experience. That was really amazing. I really enjoyed that. So I really hope we stay in touch and that there will be more to come. So Alex,
Definitely.
thank you so much for making this happen. Really appreciate
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye all. Have a nice evening.
Ciao. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.